Marrielle is speaking out of the entertainment manual from our advanced communication series. Her objectives are to entertain the audience by relating a personal experience and to organize an entertaining speech for maximum impact. And her title of her speech is My Dysfunctional Family. I just have a question. Who in here thinks that they could also do a speech on their dysfunctional family? Is anyone here who thinks that they don't have material? I think this is great. And Marrielle, when I read this, I think I go back to my adage of saying, tragedy plus time equals humor. And we need that distance with our families, I think, before we often see the humor. So I'm very interested to listen to your content, and I'm sure we will all be entertained. Her speech is from 5 to 7 minutes. Please welcome Marrielle Pariseau.
God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the ones I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Well, growing up in my family, I needed the first part of that prayer. I needed all the serenity I could get. My father was a salesman, but my mother told everybody he was an engineer. And he never corrected her. Which was interesting because he was probably the only engineer in the whole world who never finished 7th grade. He also had a second job, moonlighting as the chief of police of our municipality, which was the other strange thing because he was part of a police force of one. So I never understood why he was called the chief. And on top of it, the municipality didn't even provide him with a police car. So he performed all of his police duties in the family car, including a memorable high-speed car chase on a Sunday after Mass with my mother sitting in the front seat going, and us 3 kids on the back seat having a roller coaster of a good time, no seat belts. We lived at the bottom of a hill, and one day my father tossed me his car keys, the family/police car keys. And he told me if I could figure out how to bring the car up the hill, I would be allowed to drive. So I figured it out before I totally burnt the clutch and wrecked all the gears. And after that, I started driving on a regular basis, usually going to the corner store to buy my father some cigarettes. I was 13. But it was all okay. I had law and order on my side. I was the chief's daughter after all. By the time I was 16 or 17, I started going out with my brother. And my mother was thrilled. She thought it was so nice that we got together so well, that my brother would introduce me to all of his nice friends. And she was right. He did introduce me to his nice friends, and they were nice, and they were funny, and they were artistic, and they were exuberant, and they were all gay. And I met most of them in gay bars. And I remember one night I was dancing in a disco in a gay bar. And there was this cute guy who wiggled his way through the crowd to come and dance with me. And he said, "What's your name?" I said, "Marrielle." He said, "What?" I said, "Marrielle." "You're a girl?" Oh. Yeah, what a shame. On a hot August afternoon, I almost passed out when I saw my brother coming out of the bathroom. He had gone in there with a bushy mustache, a thick beard, and a head full of hair. And when he emerged where there had been hair, there was this obscenely white skin contrasting in such an ugly way with his tanned complexion. And before I could say anything, the phone rang with news that our parish priest had passed away. My brother freaked out. He said, "Oh, what have I done? What am I going to do? I can't go to the funerals this way." I said, "You're kidding me, right? You can't go anywhere this way." So I went to the mall and I bought him a wig. The day of the funerals, Jean-Pierre donned We got to the church a little late, and by the time we got there, the place was packed. But the usher signaled us to some seats in the very front of the church. The service was very long, and Jean-Pierre could not sit still, and he kept on scratching his head as if he had an army of headlights crawling on his scalp. And he leaned over to me and said, "I can't stand this thing, I've got to take it off." And before I could hold on to him, he yanked the thing off his head, he ejected out of his seats, and he stormed out of the church through the central aisle. Eventually, my parents found out my brother was gay. There were dark years that followed, but even during those dark years, there were some interesting moments. I remember the day I told my mother that my Argentine in-laws were planning a visit to Canada. She immediately started planning a reception for them, a whole afternoon and evening affair, complete with a 5-course meal, and everybody in the family was not invited, expected to attend, except for Serge, my brother's companion. You know, family honor and all that stuff. I'll spare you the hysterics that followed, and after long negotiations, my brother and mother finally agreed that Serge could attend only if both Serge and Jean-Pierre came to the reception with a girlfriend.
Oh gosh.
And they did come with a girlfriend on the day of the reception. Those girlfriends were wearing stiletto heels, fishnet stockings, the miniest of miniskirts I had ever seen in my whole life, and makeup this thick. Jean-Pierre and Serge had their heads shaved. They were wearing combat fatigues, boots. And when my father-in-law approached my mother and asked her, is that the way young people dress normally in Canada? My mother pretended everything was normal. I'm telling you, denial is not a river in Egypt. The conversations around the dinner table took interesting and weird twists at my brother's end of the table, which kept my mother going around the table and serving more and more food to all the guests, including to my poor in-laws, who politely had refused their offers for more. You should have seen their glances. They were screaming for help. I'm sure they wanted to run away from my family. Anyways, I stopped believing in God well before I turned 20, and I only discovered the Serenity Prayer when I was in my 30s, but I still was graced with enough serenity to not only accept the things I couldn't change, such as my dysfunctional family, but to also find humor in all of it. And this is what I wanted to share with you today. I didn't talk about my sister because she was the only sane member of our family. And together with her, we laugh a lot about those times with my brother, mother, and father. Thank you very much.